Welcome to the Mindful Runner podcast, a show about running and racing, trail and ultra in South Africa. Along the way, we'll be talking training, gear, nutrition, and mindfulness, all in the context of the South African racing scene. I'm your host, Fred Richardson, founder and head coach at Mindful Runner. Stay tuned as I do my best to give you all the information and none of the waffle. Hi, welcome to the Mindful Runner podcast. I'm here with Debbie, and this is a special edition of the podcast. We're going to be looking at the Mac race, and specifically the Mac 200 race, the 200 miler that is. Now, this will be my third attempt. My first attempt was, I got 290 Ks into the race. The second time round, got 65 Ks into it, and this will be the third time. So it's quite a challenge for me, both mentally and physically. But I'm up for it. I'm psyched. So sit back. I hope you learned something.
So Fred, why don't you walk us back to that first 200 miler and tell us what do you remember the most about everything leading up to 290 kilometers?
I think probably the biggest memory is just that it was a journey. It felt like, after a while, you're just running. You're always out there. You're always out in the forests, on the trails, and it just seems to become a natural thing. So I think by the third morning, everybody was just moving well and comfortable and smiling and happy on the trails. That was a big thing. And then my body giving out, my hip absolutely just caving in eventually and not being able to finish, and understanding that I had maybe 25, 30 Ks to go, and I just wasn't going to be able to do it. So hopefully it doesn't happen this time.
You did try it a second time. Can you tell us what happened there?
Oh, wow. I don't know. A case of trying to be too competitive, trying to get out and race it from the start. And that was obviously a mistake. I knew by the time I was going up Mount Anderson, and it was like 25 Ks, 20 Ks into the route, that I was my legs were gone, and I was in a panic. I couldn't recover my legs, and I tried to slow down. And ultimately, 12 hours later, I was at Mac pools, throwing up, vomiting, and just seeing this monster of another 260 kilometers ahead of me. And I let the enormity of that get on top of me.
Yeah.
All I could think about was the next day was the big climbs, the heat, and I kept on projecting how I was feeling lying there and making myself feel like, okay, well, that's going to be even worse tomorrow. And then the next day will be even worse when I come back this way. So, I think I just let the whole enormity of the event get on top of me.
Overwhelmed. And then you took a year off, right?
Yeah.
And then what made you decide to come back again, third time?
It feels like unfinished business. It feels like, I'm now 62. It feels like maybe time's running out in which I can actually get this 200 miler done. So this is probably the most opportune time for me to get it done. We put in some good training through November, December. Went to Addo. Didn't have a perfect Addo. We didn't make it there, but I felt like that conditioning really set me up to get ready for another 200 miler. So, I'm psyched. I think big change was not so much just more training, but also training differently.
Okay. Can you tell us a bit about that?
Yeah, so this time around, we've spent a lot more time doing a lot of slow running, a lot of very easy conversational, especially on the trails, run, walk. It's hours. We've spent a lot of time out there, but it's not been at a very high pace. So I've suffered no real muscular niggles, no hamstring issues, no tendon issues, nothing. It's just been a very relaxed, easy build. And I think even going to Addo and doing 120 Ks there, I never felt physically stressed by that. So that's probably it, is a lot more slow, easy running and a lot more walking focus. We're doing 25 to 30 Ks a week just walking. And I think that's what it comes down to, is time on the feet. But we'll see in 2 weeks' time just how effective that is.
And then what about mental shifts? Any gear changes?
Yeah, I think the morning after I bailed on the 200 after that 65K, Kind of lay there thinking, well, this is silly. I let that whole big race get on top of me and overwhelm me. And I know what the rules are because we coach people, right? We coach people in how to overcome exactly that scenario. It is break it down piece by piece, one aid station at a time, one hill at a time, one water stop at a time, just whatever it takes, one step at a time, but just try and get yourself as present as possible. That big thing get in your head. Even to the extent of, I don't think of it as 320 kilometers, it's 200 miles. It makes it seem smaller, yeah. And less overwhelming, because if you put that whole route, that whole 320 Ks in your head, and you think about where you have to go,
it's a lot.
It just makes my stomach kind of drop. I think that's the big, not so much mindset shift, because I knew this already. As I say, it's what we coach. But understanding that I hadn't applied it to myself, that I was being just unconsciously reacting to the scenario rather than controlling my run.
Okay, so then what about bringing in mindfulness, which is also part of what you coach? Did you do that this time around? Can you talk us through that?
Yeah, so there's been a much bigger shift in our coaching in general, I think, since that since that 65K fail. I recognize that even though mindfulness and mindset was an important part of what we coach, it had not been at the forefront. It had always been kind of in the background, and some of our athletes, we spoke about it too, but we let people kind of come to it in their own way. That lesson, though, was just how important it is to get the mindfulness training in, to try and stay physically aware of where you are and who you are, and treat the trails differently. You know, there's often you hear this, you're gonna crush it this time. You're gonna beat that trail. You're gonna crush that mountain. The mountain doesn't care. It doesn't even know you're there.
Crushing.
There is no crushing. And it's much more part of be a part of the landscape. Move through the landscape. Be there, be present.
Be mindful.
Be mindful, yeah, exactly. And those skills, which we now put a lot of emphasis on, are what I've again been focusing on, and getting that mindset through of focus on your breathing when you need to, try and stay present, experience the environment you're in, be one with the landscape, not against the landscape.
And one step at a time.
Yeah, one step at a time.
Important. And what is it about Mac that has you coming back again and again?
I don't know, actually.
The terrain?
I think, it is that. It's the terrain, there's always, the interesting thing with Mac for me is there's always a change. So at the point where you'll do a lot of, especially 100 milers, where you'll get into sections of trail that are just boring for 20, 30, 40 Ks, where you're just grinding it out. Mac, you never feel like that. There's always something changing. There's always a new bit of terrain. You're in riverine forest, and then you're on forest track again. Then you're on a bit of gravel road. Then you're climbing. Then you're descending. There's always something keeping you in the game and interested. And it's possibly because the entire trail is set up of primarily hiking trails. And so those hiking trails have been engineered in such a way that they're friendly, and it's about seeing the view and smelling the flowers and experiencing the terrain. And I think more than any other race in the country, Mac has got that sense of you're on an adventure. Yeah, that's it for me, is one big adventure. And
is there any specific part that's your favorite, or is there any section that you absolutely dread?
So there used to be a section that I dread, and that was the famous Turvebos. I no longer dread that. I kind of look forward to it now. But I remember going into that, the second 200-mile attempt, and I was absolutely just dreading coming back there, because that's where I'd stopped the previous time. I'd stopped just before the Turvebos, and I'd stopped there because I knew I couldn't physically move through there without probably falling somewhere badly. So that remained quite a monster in my head. And then 2 years later, well, not 2 years later, last year sometime, myself and a few of my athletes, we went back there, and I ran through that section in daylight, and
it's lovely.
It's an absolutely beautiful section. I loved it. There was no problem at all. And so now I'm looking forward to that section, because that's the section just before you're getting home, and it's the last truly wild piece of the trail. After that, it's kind of almost tame.
And then this time, what is your strategy? Nutrition, gear, sleeping, mentality, what's different?
I think this time Look, the gear is almost always dialed in, right? The gear hasn't changed at all, I think. Even from the first one to now, I'm still using the same gear. Perhaps my lighting has got more effective because in that time frame, lights have got better.
Your headlamp?
Headlamp, waist lamp. There are some sections on that course that are notoriously misty, like really difficult to navigate in the dark, especially when you're on single track and you can't see properly, around Mount Sheba especially. And we'll be spending double time around Mount Sheba because on the 200 miler you go out around there and then come back. So that's an important part, making sure that you've got good lighting that's going to work in the mist. My poles are my hiking poles are a little bit lighter, and I would definitely, 200 miler, definitely use poles, 100 miler probably. So gear-wise, the poles.
The shoes?
Okay, so yeah, running in different shoes this time. Going to try some high-tech shoes, carbon rods in the shoes, which make the running a little easier on the gravel sections. Hopefully that 0.5% will make a bit of a difference.
Every bit counts.
Yeah, make a bit of an energy saving there. So I'm looking forward to trying those out. The problem is in the reviews that I've seen, they are notoriously... They're not so stable in the ankles. But the training I've done, and I've done some long runs in them, I've not experienced that. They do rebound a bit weirdly every now and then, but it's not an ankle twisting kind of thing. It's just the shoe just bounces a bit weird. So that's going to be an interesting piece of tech. Nutrition-wise, nutrition's always up for debate, especially on a route like this. Yeah. I mean, we've worked with all sorts of types of nutrition. We've tried all sorts of tactics.
Different brands, yeah.
Yeah. But the bottom line now is to try and get in, especially in the first probably 24 hours, it's going to be mostly liquid, mostly gel and bottles. And then after that, see how long I can keep going without taking in the solids. But there will be meals at night, especially soups and maybe some bread. I think that's up for experimentation, and we'll find out as we go. But I think we've got that fairly well dialed in. Strategically, I'm going to put my nose on the line now and say I'm going for 80 hours. Does mean, and looking at my own pacing, I'm going to drop by 20 to 25% between the start and the finish, which means I have to go a little quicker in the beginning because the end is going to be so much slower. Yeah. So I've got to, and so it'll look a little weird, I think, because you're going to see me trying to get in under 30 hours, and then that gives me another 50 hours to get around the rest of it. Yeah. Sleep-wise, I'm going to be looking to sleep on the second and third nights and finish without sleep on the fourth afternoon, evening. If everything works well, it'll be late evening on Saturday. And then power nap if I need to. Okay. But I know from my own experience that I get very sleepy and I can have a dirt nap. I literally lie down wherever I am. And as soon as I feel uncomfortable, I wake up and it'll take, sometimes it's 5 minutes, sometimes it's 10 minutes. It really doesn't take that long. And I'm quite refreshed and I can keep going from there. But also caffeine overrides those quite well. Okay. So caffeine gel when I'm feeling sleepy to get past those. Hopefully that works.
That's good. Finishing this race, what does that mean to you as not just a runner, but also as a coach?
Yeah, this one's, I think it's massive. As I said earlier, I don't know that I've got more 200 milers in me, and not just from an actual racing point of view, but also the preparation. I mean, you know how long it takes. Right. Yeah. You know how much time we spend training. You're doing 6, 7, 8 hour runs on a weekend. It's a lot. And it takes up personal time. It takes up work time. So from that practical point of view, I don't know how many more I have left. But it's such an enticing challenge. Like, can I do it? Can I get through this time? Can I make it to the finish line? And although I've said 80 hours is my target, really bottom line is I'm finishing. This time I'm finishing this race. It's important to me personally that I finish it.
And then as a coach, what have you relearned?
Yeah, as I said earlier, the mindfulness, as a massive lesson of they tell you that 100 milers are in the mind, but I don't think 100 milers are that much in the mind, not in the same sense that a 200 miler is. A miler is so much more of a journey, so much more of a mental and spiritual journey. Yeah, the 100 miler, you need that mental fortitude to keep on going when you're feeling bad, because that's going to happen. On a 200 miler, you're going to feel bad many times, and it becomes less about grit and more just about moving, about being comfortable, being uncomfortable. There's a lot of that in that kind of distance. So I think, when coaching for this kind of distance, there isn't any preparation that's very different to 100-miler preparation. It's the same kind of prep. Physically, you'd be doing the same kinds of stuff. It's more about getting in the small things dialed in, getting your mental game dialed in, getting your nutrition on point, making sure you've got the waist lamp and that you can deal with the aid stations effectively. And it's all the little pieces that they add up because, you're spending 80 hours out there and you're just going to, if you spend 10 minutes at every aid station, that amounts to 4 hours.
How many aid stations and then times by 10.
So you've got to just learn how to keep that managed and be as effective and efficient as possible and try to always be moving forward. If you're stopped, it's for a reason. Otherwise, keep moving forward.
Interesting. And then you coached yourself, right?
Yes, I did.
And what's that like?
Well, what's interesting is once there's a program in Training Peaks, you just kind of stick to it. So it doesn't matter who put the program together. I put the program together. I'll put in a month's worth of programming. I'll look at what's sensible. I'll put it in. And then on the day I turn up and I execute. I'm not arguing with the coach. I'm not doubting. I'm just kind of going, okay, well, that's my workout for today. Start the run and execute.
Okay. So 200 miles is a long conversation with yourself. What are you saying to yourself? What are you learning? What's the lesson here?
I don't know, I suppose.
What are you hoping to learn?
It's just a deeper journey into yourself, I guess. A little bit more time spent trying to understand your own internal motivations, who you are. Everything's kind of stripped bare when you're out there. It doesn't take long. It takes 20, 30 Ks and you're just down to the bare essentials. It's your own body, your own capabilities. And being able to handle the situation. So you come out of it feeling like a capable human being. And that almost appeals, it's below a civilized level. That sense of I'm capable and I can handle myself in the wild. That's what we're trying for. That's what we're going to come away with.
Coach Fred, if this was your last Mac, what would you want to say to yourself about it?
If this is my last Mac, what would I want to say? Enjoy it. Enjoy the adventure. I'm spending time with 20-odd other people who share the same passions we do, who are also out there for the adventure. So get out there, have this massive adventure, test my own physical limits, and at the same time, maybe set a bit of an example of you don't have to stop racing just because your hair gets grey. You can keep going. And I do mean that from a racing point of view. I'm going to be pushing for that 80 hours. It's not an easy thing. It's not an easy time. If you look at the previous finishing times, it's not. So I'm still going to have to be pushing myself, and it's definitely not a picnic.
Sure. So we will be watching, and we wish you all the best of luck. And we'll check in with you afterwards to see how it all went.
Yeah, let's hope it gets real.
Have fun out there.
Okay. As always, thank you for listening. If you want to know more about Mindful Runner, check us out at mindfulrunner.co.za. On Instagram, you can find us at Mindful Runner. In the meantime, enjoy your running, happy trails, and don't forget to subscribe.